Hello class 10 students, I hope you all are fine and preparing well for your boards. This video will trigger your thought process and help you understand the kind of questions or points you can think of in the poems from First Flight. Before watching this video, do subscribe to my channel Learn with Ease. So let's get started. Now there are 10 poems in English language and literature with code number 184. Starting with Dust of Snow, you can think of if the poem evokes a sense of black and white, how contrasting elements of nature are used in the poem to convey the message about life and human emotions, what the poet was probably doing when the dust of snow fell on him, and how the presence of hemlock tree tells you about the setting of the poem. In the poem Fire and Ice, you can think of if the poem projects a pessimistic outlook, how Nelson Mandela can be connected with the idea of the poem. Similarity in the message conveyed in the twin poems by Robert Frost, how the poem in Mankind can be addressed to create a harmonious world, how the tone of the speaker contrasts with the seriousness of the subject matter, and how the first two lines of the poem can be evaluated in the context of volcanic eruptions, forest fires, meteor collisions, and melting ice caps. In the poem A Tiger in the Zoo, you can think of how tigers' eyes speak a great language, how cruelty of animals in captivity is pointed in the poem. If the poem celebrates the strength of the tiger, if the tiger in the poem had lost its natural instinct due to captivity, why the tiger feels helpless, angry, and frustrated in the concrete cell. Compare and contrast the tigers in A Tiger in the Zoo and How to Tell Wild Animals, and how the poet has used vivid imagery and metaphorical language in the poem to effectively depict the confinement and oppression experienced by the captive tiger. In the poem How to Tell Wild Animals, you can think of the irony in the last two lines of stanza 1 on the Asian lion, where hyperbole is used in the poem. I hope you know what hyperbole is. It is a literary device used when the poet exaggerates an image to make it comical. Explaining paradox in the last two lines of the last stanza on the chameleon, the most appropriate genre of the poem, and elaborating the quote, all knowledge is useful, but not all knowledge is worth the cost, in the context of the poem. In the poem The Ball Poem, you can think of who I in the poem is, the poet or an observer, how out of sight, out of mind is applied to the boy towards the end of the poem, how the poem addresses the thought that responsibility is self-taught, explaining why time can probably be one of the things people bitterly regret losing or wasting, and how games and sports can train children to take losses in their stride. In the poem Amanda, you can think of evaluating the approaches of Amanda's mother and the baby seagull's mother. If Amanda is a disrespectful child, the image languid emerald sea evokes. What the line never let down my bright hair tells you about Amanda. If you are sympathizing with the speaker in the poem, the significance of exclamation mark in the title of the poem Amanda, if Amanda is alone in the world, if Amanda feels lonely in the world, and how the quote, all grown-ups were once children, but only a few of them remember it, can be applied to the poem Amanda. In the poem The Trees, you can think of how and why the process of moving out was tedious for the trees, where in the poem the trees have been shown to have human qualities. The poet symbolizes women as of forests, not trees. So what does it suggest? Explaining whispers used in the poem, justifying the quote that change never comes easy, and The literal and symbolic meaning of victory. In the poem Fog, you can think of how stealth is an important aspect of fog. If the fog is a resident of the city or an outsider, if the fog is active or passive, the significance of the closing phrase of the poem moves on. Why fog is compared to a cat only, and two animals from How to Tell Wild Animals that do not have the qualities that can be drawn out to be compared with a fog. In the poem The Tale of Custard the Dragon, you can think of why humility is a virtue worth possessing. If Custard could be the poster boy for the belief that the real nature of a person is revealed at times of the greatest difficulty. Why the animals in the poem have such names. Why a pirate was chosen in the poem. The poem is a light-hearted ballad with a powerful message. How Custard was discriminated, bullied and made fun of. If there is any character from First Flight who displayed courage and was the one who saved the day in the end, and whether individuals should conform to societal expectations. In the poem for Anne Gregory, you can think of how the advice given by elders is crucial to young lives in the context of the poem, and if yellow hair is symbolic of anything.